Are all of your donors baby boomers, but you're struggling to connect to the millennial giving generation? Well, this video may just be for you. This is how to specifically tailor your fundraising message to each generation. Now, I know there's more generations than just these four, but since these are the primary giving generations right now in the year 2025 and maybe 2026 as well, this is what we're gonna focus on this time. This is baby boomers, Gen X, Millennials, also known as Gen Y, and then of course, Gen Z. There is a giving generation older than the baby boomers, and there's technically a giving generation younger than Gen Z as Gen Alpha, but since those are such a small percentage of the current total giving, we're just gonna focus on the biggest four for today. Here's how to tailor your message specifically to baby boomers. Baby boomers were born from 1946, right after World War II, to 1964, and here's what we need to know about them. We're going to generalize, of course, so this is not true of every single person. We should always tailor our fundraising message to the specific person, not just by a generation as a whole. If we're looking to target age ranges in general, here are some strong generalities that might work. Number one is they value security. Number two, they value community pride. And three, they really value leaving a legacy. Again, not all people, but we can kind of look at these in general. So here are the three keys to messaging to baby boomers. Number one, mission continuity. Baby boomers as a whole need to know that the charity that's supporting a certain community program or friends of theirs, neighbors, pets, kids, whatever that mission is, it will continue to do that long into the future. They like giving for a legacy, with a legacy, and maintaining that longevity across a long scope. One of the things you can talk about and focus on are gifts that last past their lifetime. They're certainly of an age now where they're thinking about legacy, they're thinking about what are they gonna leave behind, and we can help them achieve their philanthropic goals by giving them things to give to that will last longer than they will, well into the future, hundreds of years. Whatever you can message, it really helps. Mission continuity. Number two is personal testimony. Now this more specifically means of a certain story. So if you can connect a single person or a single person that was helped through the continuum of care of whatever your nonprofit provides before this person didn't have a place to live or things to eat or medical care, and then we were able to intervene and now they're this. So this personal story, personal connection, not necessarily gonna wow them with big facts and figures and numbers when you can really focus on that personal testimony of one person. If you can get that person to speak on camera or to come and meet this donor, even more powerful. This is a very important aspect of the baby boomer giving habits, and we want to make sure we're focusing on that personal testimony. Number three, they're a generation of family values. And looking at recognition options, they may not necessarily want their name on a wall or a building or a program right away. However, if you can tie that into leading the example for generations to come or demonstrating the power of giving to the rest of their community and having those family values around giving back to a country, to a community, to whatever that helped them get where they were, we can really play to those strengths. One of the tools that we can use here is the multi-year pledge to give them flexibility to pay out over multiple years, to give them flexibility to round into different tax years. They may come to an age where they have to take required minimum distributions from retirement accounts, so they have new income that they no longer need and is taxable for the first time. So they may want to offload some of that by supporting some local charities, and giving them options is a key way to capture that. But that family values piece is huge to them. So really focusing on those multi-year pledges. And then of course, talking about planned giving. We know the average age to make a will is 45. So a little bit younger than the baby boomer generation right now, but certainly baby boomers are thinking about their estates, their legacy, what they can leave behind. So being able to capture those conversations and having information on your website, having materials around planned giving is an absolute key to making sure that baby boomers can leave the legacy that they would like to. Next is Gen X, born starting in 1965 to about 1980. Again, with generations, that's always a gradient of one generation moving into another. It's not like, well, January 1st, 1980, you're officially Gen X. It's kind of a close, and sometimes depending on maybe you had older siblings that were in a different age group, you kind of tend more towards that generation. But this is a kind of a soft 1964 to 1980 date range. This is a big chunk of people who are Gen X. At this point in their lives, Gen X are probably balancing kids, perhaps aging parents. They are at the peak of their careers. They're in their prime earning years. So what they're really going to value as a whole, again, we're generalizing here. We're not talking about specific people, but an entire generation of people. They're going to prioritize efficiency, speed, and ROI. So we can really try to incorporate those things into our messaging. These are busy people. They're right in the prime of their life and they have a lot going on, so we want to help them out. Number one thing we can focus on with messaging is specific outcomes. And all we're doing here is translating specific gifts into time-bound objectives or time-bound results. So your gift of $10,000 allows us to blank, blank, and blank before February, whatever. So instead of saying something like, please give us $10,000 to work on our whatever program, we can say, this $10,000 will allow us to specifically impact these 3 areas in this way, and these are the specific outcomes that we have. This is what we can get. If you look at something more like a $25,000, we're able to do these things. Instead of trying to go through the fluff or letting them choose, they really oftentimes will appreciate the early specificity about what the gift does and what the campaign does. We really try to lean into that. Number 2 is flexible commitments. And again, much like the baby boomers, this is a great opportunity to offer multi-year pledges. They might be in a time of life where they have kids going to college for the first time and they're having to absorb a new large expense, or they like to round into different tax years. Sometimes Gen X may be business owners and they're selling their business for the first time, or they're getting into a new career role, or they're getting promoted up. They have these life events that may affect and swing their income largely for the first time in their lives, way up and down. And the best way to help them maximize their tax advantages and also give more is to give very flexible commitments. What that might look like is if you were to ask for a large gift, like a $50,000 pledge from a Gen X person, you can let them round it into 4 different years and have no set terms when they pay it. They've got 4 years to pay off the $50,000. They can pick any year they want. They can surprise you with a lot more money in 1 year if they have some more tax advantageous money they're trying to get rid of and move it around. And you say, well, that's kind of risky. What if they pledge the $50,000 and they end up not paying? Well, about 99.6% of pledges are paid in the United States. So we can pretty safely assume if they make the commitment, we're going to see most, if not all of that money almost every single time. So really allow those flexible multi-year pledge payoffs when you can with Gen X. The third and final is peer accountability. Interestingly, out of the 4 current generations, Gen X is the most likely of the 4 to volunteer, to spend a little bit of time with their charity. The margins aren't that great, so you have baby boomers and millennials. Everyone wants to get involved at some level, but Gen X really value that hands-on, being in the boardroom, volunteering specifically in person, serving on those fundraising committees. They're very, very busy people. They've had to always manage their time well, and they've done a great job of it with charities that they continue to support and they're excited about. So allowing them those groups where the giving is public and visible, and we have donor lists on our website and our materials, having that peer accountability can really help encourage them to stay connected and stay with our charity. Again, their time is limited. They can't serve with 7 charities. They might have to pick 1 or 2 at most, and we want to make sure those 1 or 2 are very valuably used for that time. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you're getting value out of this but would like something more personalized, you can book 30 minutes with one of our experts to see if you qualify for our support services. Link below in the description. The next generation is the Millennials. This is my generation, born from 1981. Again, the years are a little loose, it's a gradient, to about 1996. Kind of the last generation to grow up without the iPad when we were kids. I remember a time with like a lot of people my age where we didn't have fast internet. We had dial-up internet. I remember a time before we had smartphones. I'm the last generation ever to remember a time growing up without smartphones. Everyone younger than me basically already had that. So this is a very high impact, and a lot of technology and tech has shaped the millennial generation. Here's what that means. First tactic is co-creation. Millennials, more so maybe than some of the other generations, love to work in teams and love to be very hands-on. This is a little bit different than maybe volunteering on a board in the way that Gen X tends to, and more like, hey, if I'm gonna give to a certain organization, I wanna be involved in how that money is spent, and I wanna work on the team in whatever volunteer basis I could. I always try to give an example for like an animal shelter, something that's simple and easy. Like if I'm gonna give money to buy 10 or 15 new kennels, I wanna be on site when they choose the kennels, and I wanna talk about what kind and where they go and why that matters. And again, not necessarily true for everybody, but having that co-creation, seeing them as partners, not ATMs, is a great way to kind of involve them and keep them in the long run. The question we get all the time is like, my millennials are not getting quite as involved in giving as my boomers and maybe my Gen X's. Millennials actually give more percentage-wise of their total wealth than any other generation. So some may call us the most generous generation. I hope that remains to be true, and we continue to give to the causes that we most support and that we're most excited about. But most importantly, out of all this, is we just want to be involved, we want to be frontline, and we want to be a part of the mission. So giving opportunities for frontline and volunteering and being hands-on is really key with the millennial generation. Number 2 is transparency. We tend to also be, as a whole, a very suspicious bunch. Kind of graduated right into the 2008 financial crisis. We're told we'll never get a job, kind of a following housing crisis after that, where a lot of people can't buy houses. So we're not necessarily a very trusting group of the systems and institutions, but this is a totally fine thing to overcome. All we have to do is be a little bit more transparent about financials and plan and scope, whether things are going well or not well. It's much better to be honest. I think there's kind of an inherent trust in institutions, a little bit more with the older generations and the younger generations, maybe a little bit more skeptical. That may be a snapshot of where we are right now and not just the group of people as a whole. But if you can really push transparency with all of your internal operations, you may get a little more participation and gifts specifically from millennials. All right, number 3 is what we call experiential stewardship. And again, just to define it, stewardship is all of the cultivating and time that we spend trying to make the gifts public and thank the donor for the gift. And stewardship is all of that happens after the gift is made. So the cultivation process is leading up to the gift. Stewardship is everything after the gift is made. And that experiential stewardship, again, kind of goes back to that hands-on piece. So there's the co-creation piece where I want to be involved. I'm much more likely to give if I'm involved as a volunteer and vice versa. But after making a gift, a millennial is also much more likely to give again if they get to be a part of how the mission is delivered in some way. There may be lots of opportunities to do this. Sometimes it's a little bit tougher with, like, say, a hospital. You can't have just a random person come in and operate on somebody, but there are volunteer opportunities both in and outside of fundraising that you can just offer. You don't even have to ask for volunteers. Just make it aware. Just send out an email, make sure it's on your website, that you have an easy way for people to come in and say, hey, if you want to get involved, or you want to give time, you want to serve with us, here are the things that we need. You want to give 3 hours a month? Great, here's how you spend it. You want to give 10 hours a month? Great, here's how you spend it. But it's that co-mingling, co-creation, experiential, hands-on touch that a lot of millennials crave, and it's a great thing to offer if you want to keep them engaged and, of course, increase their giving. Last and certainly not least is Gen Z, which we're going to talk about today. This is roughly the year 1997 all the way up to 2012. So again, this kind of stretches all the way into people who are pretty young and in the teenage years. So obviously Gen Z is going to be the smallest piece of the giving pie because they have the least total wealth to give away. There's actually a very linear relationship between how old you are and how much money you give away. As you earn more wealth and accumulate more wealth over the years, you're more likely to give that money away to charity. It's not that Gen Z is not generous, they just don't have the wealth yet. So these are some early strategies as we're starting to see some Gen Z get into college and working age years and getting involved with charities. And there's some data to support what kind of things they like and don't like. So here's what we've learned. Mission alignment. This is something that's fairly unique to Gen Z, whereas most generations, particularly boomers and Gen X right now, tend to give to organizations that mirror their personal experience. A clear example of this is if someone had a family member with cancer and then they gave to a cancer institute. They have a very mirrored experience, either at least firsthand or secondhand with that thing. Gen Z, not so much. They're willing to give outside of their personal experience as long as it better aligns with their values. Much more value focused, less experiential and personal focused. So they're not necessarily, giving within their own circles or supporting people their age or supporting people with their same problems. They're going to focus on their own personal values and give within that. So it's a much wider scope of giving. Number 2 is what we call micro today, macro tomorrow. We can't at this point ask too much from a generation that isn't going to participate at a high level. So we say, well, they're not going to volunteer at this level. We're not going to do board service. What's the point of getting them involved at all? Instead, what we try to say are, what is the minimum amount that they could do that still gets them an experience with our organization, that gets them to be a little bit hands-on, allows them to give, but have that give to have some level of impact that can be important in developing those values, developing that relationship with that type of giving, so that later, when they have more time or when they have more wealth or both, and they kind of graduate into the age that the millennials are currently, they have a lot more capacity to give. Again, there's going to be this huge amount of wealth that gets transferred over the next 30 years. Baby boomer generation, currently accumulated I think it's about half of all wealth is just in the baby boomer generation right now. So as that gets passed on to the younger generations, there's going to be a lot more giving power. So the best way to engage Gen Z, and maybe millennials to some extent too, is to focus on kind of minimum barrier for entry, just to get them in the space of giving, get them connected to your nonprofit, so that later when they do have time and wealth, you've already planted those seeds and you haven't scared them off with, oh, it's this much work, or you have to give $5,000 to even get to participate. Saying, what can we do that's within their scope of time and wealth right now? And then third and finally is creator partnerships. Just like millennials, Gen Zs tend to be a little bit skeptical of institutions, where if they have a business that says something, or declares it to be true, maybe a baby boomer is slightly more likely to believe that, or a Gen Z is gonna go, I don't know, that's just some faceless account saying that, it's probably not even true. They're much more likely to be influenced by creators and people and social media of people their age saying, hey, I had a direct experience with this, this was my experience with this is what I think your experience. We have the access to, these little windows on our phones where we can see the entire world. They grew up with these. So if they can't see it with their own eyes and see evidence of people their own age talking about it, experiencing it, showing evidence of it, they're less likely to engage. So if we have ways to connect with them in that way and kind of create those partnerships where you can say, hey, there are people who have, maybe they're influencers, maybe it's people who are not necessarily even in the Gen Z age group, but they're a real human, and it's a very taking with your iPhone type video of something that's going on in your charity, that's much more likely to resonate than a beautiful polished video or a fancy website. Those things, though great and great for your brand, feel very institutional and less raw and less likely to resonate with this younger generation. Again, these things change all the time, so I want to give the caveat that this is a fluid process. These are just some generalities, and of course, again, these are huge blanket statements about an entire group of people. So you want to, of course, customize it as best you can to each generation, but then hyper customize it to each person or each group within that. But hopefully this gives you some general guidelines and a starting point to start to engage those younger generations and get everybody involved in philanthropy. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you'd like more help, you can go over to our website, pridephilanthropy.com, and click on that Let's Chat button, and you can talk directly with a member of our team to see if we can help you. If you want more content like this, you can subscribe. We post every single week, and we will see you in the next video.